Not so long time ago, on March 22nd, 1966, in Thomasville, Alabama, 4 of the 5 starting players of the A.L. Martin High School basketball team were arrested for what was dubbed as disturbing the peace. But the question became, whose peace? That spring night triggered a civil rights movement off the beaten path of Selma and Montgomery to the soils of Thomasville. These young teenagers would become known as the Thomasville Four. Clarence Allen, Claude Dickinson, O.C. Pritchett, and Thomas Edison Jackson started out on a routine walk that would become a run in the civil rights movement in Thomasville. Now let us listen to Reverend Thomas Edison Jackson as he recalls the events stemming from that night, March 22nd, 1966.
Well, 48 years ago, neither one of us, the 4 of us, Osa Pritchett, Clarence Allen, Claude Dickinson, nor myself thought that what was taking place and transpiring was we would be making history. We just was 4 guys that was members of the A.L. Martin High School basketball team, and Maranatha Williams was a friend of Clarence, and he wanted us to walk him across town to see her. And by us crossing the highway 143 there, and there was a dairy bar, and no one was there. So I said, hey, let's go in and get some ice cream. We had a few pennies in our pocket, and we did. And what was so exciting about this is that as soon as we went in and made the order of ice cream cones, and we was told that they didn't serve niggers, in there, we wanted ice cream. We had to go out and go around to the window. And the question was, who ordered niggers? And we didn't order any niggers, we ordered ice cream. And about 15, 20 seconds after that, a white guy and his friend drove up in a pickup truck and came in cursing, acting, we weren't supposed to be in there because the law said we weren't supposed to be in. And they asked the question, what you niggas doing in here, And we wanted ice cream. And one of the guys pulled out a gun and told us to get out. And what was so amazing, Osa Pritchett was stocky, football player, basketball player, big man, built. And he ran over there and grabbed the guy by his hand, the gun hand. He had a gun in his hand. And he told us to run, get out of here. And when we looked back, the white guy was going down to the floor on his knees because Osa was putting so much pressure on his hand. And matter of fact, he took the gun, I believe, and ran out. And we ran east out of 43 going to the east, which was going down the hill. I don't even know what the name of the street is. But there was a couple of shots fired at us. And we do know where they came from the yard of the man at the house adjacent to the dairy bar, and he was a Bagley. And he shot at us twice, and we could hear the zingling of those butt shots as we ran. And by the time we got to the bottom of the hill, Osi had caught up with us. And so we ran for another couple of minutes because, basketball season was just over. We was in shape to run. And we ran on up the hill and down another hill, and then nobody was chasing us, so we began to walk. And we wondered what happened. Why they want to do this? Only thing we wanted to do was get some ice cream, and they wanted to kill us. And by that time, I guess the policeman came through and stopped and asked us where we were coming from and where were we going. We told them we was coming from home, really, but we was going over to Mrs. Williams' house. And so they let us go because we hadn't done anything. And so on the way back from Mrs. Williams' house, we came back the same way, and they stopped us on the way back. And then they had their machines on, bring them nigger boys back over here so somebody over here can identify them. And so at that time, they arrested us and took us to the dairy bar, and we was identified as being the 4 guys that came in and cursed out a white woman. And we did nothing of the sort. The only thing we did was order ice cream. And so they taken us down to the city hall, and and charged us with disturbing the peace. And so we talked a while, and we asked the question, do we have a phone call? I remember, in American history, Mrs. Clark taught us, and that's a question you thought everybody get arrested, got one phone. I didn't even have a phone at the house, but it was Claude Dixon called his mother and got the word out that we had been arrested. And they wouldn't let the parents come in. Now, my father came down and talked through the window. Nobody came inside the jail that night to see us. But a lot of the policemen and some other our upclass citizens, male citizens, came through, and they said some very ugly things to us to make us feel like what we had done was so wrong. When you think about this, you look back now. Even at the time when we was in jail, we was afraid because things had happened in the jail. Black people have disappeared downtown Thomasville, had lost their life, in other words. And over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, 3 people had died, civil rights workers, and were killed, murdered, in other words. And so these things kept popping up, but we didn't talk about it because we was too afraid to talk because we didn't know what was going to happen to us. And we some of us we cried about it because we didn't know what was going to happen. They kept parading, down there looking up on us, telling us what was going to happen to us. We was going to be working, picking up paper on the road and all this stuff because what we had done was so against the law. And so what we didn't understand is that we hadn't done anything but gone into the front of a building to order ice cream where it had the blacks could not go into the front, but on the side. And I would say this, during this time, as we look back during that night, several people came to the jail. Early mornings, the garbage workers would come. They came to work and they were hollering in there, "Hey, up in there, who?" And we told them who we were and that we had gotten arrested. And, "Oh, y'all the guys." And I was just about 4 o'clock that morning, 4:30, Reverend Frank Dean came by on his way back to Selma. He had worked with the SCLC. Matter of fact, he was a chauffeur for Dr. Martin Luther King prior to him coming through Thomasville. And he told us in that hour, he said, "What did they charge you with?" And we said they told us that we would disturb the peace for going to enter into the front of a building where whites only was, where blacks couldn't attend, and order some ice cream. Well, he told us to plead not guilty and have no further comments until we talk to our attorney. And so we feel kind of better, good. We got an attorney, we got a lawyer, And so they break, and people, the town awake and people start coming, the jail open up and they want to ask us what do we want for breakfast and all this stuff, and they're going to feed us a hamburger or something of that nature from over to the Cassidy, what is the burger shop? He had a little store downtown, a little trailer, right close to the railroad track. So we got a burger for breakfast. But later on that morning, our parents came, and to see us, and they let them speak to us, and they asked, "Were we okay?" And yes, we were fine. They didn't abuse us, didn't hit us, anything of that nature. I guess about 9:30, 10 o'clock, it was such a commotion outside of the jail. A lot of voices. At the time, we didn't know what those voices were, but they demanded. A.L. Martin High School students had walked out of school and walked to the jail demanding to see us. And that group was led by Theodore Davis, Eddie Gray Lewis, and Lindsey King, who was all in the class of 1966. I was a member of the basketball team. I was in the class of 67. I was the only junior involved. Everybody else was. And so it was just so amazing. And they told them they weren't going to let them come through, but they demanded that. It was over 200 kids out there. And so they let them come through and look at us and to talk to us, but they couldn't do much stopping, because they wanted to, parade them in and get them out. And so they did that, and they wanted to make sure that we was okay and nothing had no harm had come to us. And that was their question. Are you all right? Did anything happen to you all? Did they beat you all? And so that was the great thing that we could say, no, we was not beaten, but we was frightened to death, about what they was going to do to us. And so I guess about lunchtime, our parents came in with lunch. They brought us lunch. They went and cooked. And we had the best meal that we have ever had. I think they were the best meals ever served in the jail. And that's what one of the officers said. I can't remember even. It was several officers, but one was kind of nice to us, and I think his name was Manos. But there was a Finley and a Daniels. They was very talkative about what could happen to us if we didn't cooperate, with what was going on. Well, we didn't know that we was going to have trial that night. They had night court in Thomasville, and what they did, I guess around 6 o'clock or 6:30 that evening, they told us that they was having court and they was taking us in one at a time. They would go to Thomasville. People filled out. It was upstairs, courtroom upstairs at City Hall, the old City Hall, and it was so many people from outside of Thomasville, black people from all over, packed out that courtroom that night, and they brought us before the administrators, the prosecutors, the city judge, and the question was asked, how you plead? And we said not guilty, and we have no other comments until we talk to our attorney. Now the first two guys came up and said that, and the people started murmuring, said these niggas got attorneys, and so we better let them go. Somebody said that in court. I would never made it up. I'm still in jail, but I heard that. And so I never got a chance to go up and make my testimony. The guy that had identified us the night before could not identify the three people that had showed up in court. And I'm the fourth guy to come up to be identified. So they dropped the charge and we were set free that night. And nothing else was said about this. But beginning that particular day, and the following days, Reverend A.J. Leslie, I believe that's his name, he met with us, and he helped organize the student movement here in Thomasville. And what we didn't get the support was from the community because they said we didn't know what we was doing. But we integrated Thomasville. We went to every place you could sit down and eat. We went. And we ate, and we were served. If it took forever, we stayed until we were served. Alabama Grill, which was not the place where it was before, it was right there across from the water tower now. The Alabama Grill was right there at the time. And then Del Mar, we went at Del Mar. We ate at every restaurant. Downtown, we went down to the People's Drug Store. It was amazing that we sat there and I was listening. I'm sitting here at this bar ordering a Sunday. You go by there on Sunday afternoon, you see all the whites sitting there drinking them a Sunday, eating a hot dog, and just enjoying themselves. And we couldn't go in, couldn't order. That's one of the greatest feelings that we could feel. That all of us sitting. The place was black. Everybody that was black. With no white people in there being served at that particular time, because when we came in, they moved out, and it was amazing the way that the faces of those persons who were serving us, but they didn't mistreat us. What we ordered, they served our orders, and a couple of weeks after that, we went to the theater on Sunday. Oh yeah, and James Bond. Thunderball was showing back in the day. And let me say this, the Ku Klux, the fire department, they had gathered outside, and there was a young lady by the name of Evelyn Pritchett. And we was upstairs this time. We was down in the where everybody sit. What the blacks went up in the back, but everybody was sitting downstairs. But she stayed out for a purpose, that she could warn us when some danger had come upon us. And she came upstairs and she over the balcony. She said, "Hey, y'all better get out of there." She said the police and the fire department and people out here with change and clubs, they're gonna come in, they're gonna. She said they're gonna kill y'all. And we began to see white people getting up, 1, 2, 3 at a time, walking out. So when she mentioned that to us, we got up and we started walking out with them. And so that's the only thing saved us, because when we got to the door, they couldn't hit the person in front of us because they was a white person and it was a female. So what we would do, they was our shield until we got some freedom to run. And we pushed them in front of us and we ran across the track. And they was the guy they was gonna hose us down with the fire department, and the guy was on the microphone of the fire truck, and he was looking at the niggas run, and want to stand up and face their justice. That's what they were saying, and we ran for our lives, and that happened on a Sunday afternoon, and the theater was closed until because we would boycott everything that didn't accept black people being involved in the process. And so that was the beginning of a movement that took place 48 years ago. And 4 guys that never thought, anything of it. And 48 years later, we get some recognition. And I just hate that Osa Pritchett is not here to receive what is due him. But I always said everywhere I went, if it had not been for Osa Pritchett, who literally saved our lives that night. Otherwise, we'd have been slain right there in that dairy bar. But he, being brave as he was, helped us to rise up and be brave of our own fears and stand up and fight for equality and justice. And I keep looking back over those days and all my life through education and my college days. I never thought about this, but then when I came back home and got involved in politics, that's the first thing that the Lord showed me. How he had guided me through those days, how he protected me, gave me, see if I was able to stand. I mean, it was a test, but you didn't know it was a test until you look back at this thing now. And whoever thought that, for the last 20 years I'd be representing some of the same, the children of those persons who stood against us and called us names. Back in that day, a black person can walk on the sidewalk if a white person was on that sidewalk. And I wondered about that when I was a little boy. My mother, I asked her, I said, why we got to get off the sidewalk? Because a white person, she said, that's the white man's law. It's not right, but that's his law. And we obeyed that until, one day we just got tired of getting off and getting on because the guy was on the bicycle. And every time we get off, he come flying by. Then we get back on, he come. I said, if he come back through here, I'm not moving. And so we broke that up, The bicycle went one way and he went another way. And so we just stood our ground back in there. We look back at it now, but we could have been destroyed. We could have been killed. People dying all around us in other states. So the Lord protected us and shielded us and brought us through that. And I look back 20 years of working in the legislature, where you stand up and you defend and you represent. Color has nothing to do with it. It's the people that you represent, and the least of these, especially those who are unable to do the things that everybody else is able to do. That's why they need a voice in government. But the last 4 years, government has worked against the people of this state in 36 most states, where the Republicans has taken in the majority, and they've under the social programs that was put, the safety nets that was in place to help people has been taken away. So we have work to do. So we've come a long way, but hey, we done gone back 50 years in the last 4 years because of legislation. Education has been, money funding been cut. The middle class has suffered. Teachers now are making, $1,700 less in 2014 than they did in 2010. And there's something wrong with that picture, and there's all the policies that have been put in place by the Republicans. So when I look back at this and I just ask God to help me that we can get, if not a majority, but let us not be a super minority. Let us break that super majority. Let us at least elect 7 Democrats during this cycle. that we can have some say-so over what legislation that does pass and that comes to the floor. So everything won't be shoved down our throats. So that's my prayer, and I just want to thank the Lord and the people of this district for entrusting me to represent them for a fifth term, and beginning in November, I'm running unopposed, and it's just the people that has given their grace upon us. And I know to whom much is given, much is required, and I just want to thank God for the opportunity that He called me to be a servant. And I serve Him first, but then my voice is for the people that I represent. So it's been a great opportunity, and I thank God for it.
Thank you. high school. He played football and was an outstanding basketball star, playing in the guard position. He could shoot the three-pointer baskets before they became a part of basketball scoring. He became the first black student to graduate from the auto mechanic program at Hobson State Trade School in 1970. While living in Hammond, Indiana, Clarence worked at Hammond Valve Corporation for 8 years. Upon moving to Gary, Indiana, he worked at Klamath Steel Mill for 10 years. Then he worked for 3 years at Gary Steel Mill. Today, Clarence resides in Chesapeake, Virginia. He is the father of 2 children, 9 grandchildren. He is a member of Munich Baptist Church. He is retired and loves to travel. Mr. Claude Dickinson was born on January 6, 1949 to the late Dorothy Dickinson Williams and J.C. Dickinson in Thomasville. He is a 1966 graduate of A.L. Martin High School. During his high school years, he played sports, excelling in football and basketball. After graduation, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. While serving his country, he toured Vietnam from January 1971 to March 1972. Upon discharge from the military, he returned home to Thomasville and began working in carpentry. He worked in this field until his health failed. Claude is the proud father of 2 sons and the grandfather of 4 grandchildren. He presently resides at Brookshire Manor in Thomasville, where he enjoys watching television, solving crossword puzzles, and playing handheld games. Mr. O.C. Pritchard Jr. was born on December 22, 1947, to O.C. Pritchard Sr. and Juanita Campbell Pritchard. He is a 1966 graduate of A.L. Martin High, where he dominated the football field. On September 25, 1975, he married Willie Ruth Bettis. He is the father of 2 daughters, Evelyn and Benita, and a godson, Timothy Lane McDaniel. He is the brother of 3 sisters, Katie Jones, Benita Pritchard Johnson, and Evelyn Ann Pritchard, deceased. For 25 years, he was employed with Macmillan Bloedel as a debarker operator. During the 60s, he was a strong activist for the equality of blacks in Clark and Marengo counties. A loving and caring person of the Preacher Street community of Thomasville, he stood out as a father figure to the kids. He treated all of them like his own. Reverend Thomas Edison Jackson was born on August 24, 1949 to the late Edison and Cora Jackson in Thomasville, Alabama. He is a 1967 graduate of A.L. Martin High School. While at A.L. Martin, he was active in the following organizations: Senior Class President, member of the band, choir, Student Government Association, and the varsity basketball team. He furthered his education at Selma University in Selma, Alabama. After graduating from Selma University in 1970, he attended Knoxville College in Knoxville, Tennessee, earning his BS degree in 1972. Later, he received a master's degree in counseling from Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. His professional experiences include 1972 Mental Health Center for Adolescents in Thomasville, 1973 Clark County Public Schools, teacher, coach, and counselor, 1997 through 2007 Alabama Southern Community College Upward Bound Director, 1994 to present Alabama State Representative, House District 68, first black elected to legislature for this district. He is married to Dorothy Howes. They have 4 children, Kimberly, Terrence, Thomas III, and Tremaine. They have 2 grandchildren. Reverend Jackson has 2 sisters, Zeola Carter and Maxine Powell. He is a man of God and a gospel preacher. He has a powerful radio ministry program. He is a dedicated, hard-working individual who is a spokesman for the least of these.